And welcome to the Tony Monaco Show. It's good to have you today. I have a special guest. He's a friend that I really admire. And as you know, on Wednesdays, my show is all about that. So Greg Karukas is here. And you're going to really enjoy this show because Greg is quite the musician. So welcome, everybody. Hey, Gabriel, you know I'm doing this for you, man. Nunya, what's going on, Matthew? Analog, what's going on? What they say. Man, I'm so happy to see you all today. And I'm really super happy to see my special friend today. You know, on Wednesday, I feature someone that I really admire. And I met Greg. Well, we'll tell you all the story about this, but I met him in a place completely on the other side of the globe from where we live. Exactly 12 hours difference from Columbus, Ohio time. And he's based in LA. And quite the gentleman. That's what's important to me, besides the fact that he's a phenomenal musician. So thank you for joining my Wednesday show. God bless you all. We have fans from all around the world already. Hey, Yabus, how's everything in Turkey? And we have some people from Central Ohio, like Paul. What's going on, brother? Yeah, that's a song that I really like, and I learned it a long time ago, and it's a famous song called Mr. Magic. And if many of you know, I have a cat named Magic, so that was dedicated to my cat. But thank you for joining the Tony Monaco show. As you know, on Mondays, I feature one of my students, and on Wednesday, I decided after the first of the year to start a segment and interview people that I really admire who are doing it and successful at whatever it is that they do. My guest today is Greg Karukas, and Greg is quite the gentleman. And so without further ado for me, I'm going to go right into the interview because today it's really, really live. Here we go. Hey, Greg, I'm tuning you in. How are you, man?
Tony.
Hey! What's up?
See you.
It's good to see you too. I love you, man. You're looking good.
Thank you very much. I got my COVID haircut, special, special non-trim.
So the hat takes care of business, huh?
Yeah, keep it out of the way.
Oh, that's great. How are you, Greg?
Can't complain. I think my cat's happy.
Oh, so you have a cat too. The cats are the greatest, right?
Yeah, the hair is flying all over. She sheds.
Aha.
That's the only thing I
yeah,
can complain
man.
about.
I never really asked you, or maybe I have and forgotten. Are you originally from L.A. or where are you originally from?
I'm originally from Baltimore, Maryland.
Oh, man, you're all the way on the other side.
And did you ever hear of an organist, George Maxwell?
George Maxwell. I can't really tell you too much about George, but tell me.
Well, he was a guy back in the early 70s, the hot B3 player of Baltimore. And so it's maybe a hair before our time. And it was sort of like a legendary guy.
Okay.
And then he actually became a very famous jazz piano player.
Oh, be darned.
And he went transgender.
Okay.
And that's about all I'll comment on now because I'm not sure how public everything is.
Oh, that doesn't matter. It's interesting. Every major city had a great organ player. That's why I probably haven't heard from him because between here and Baltimore is a few cities. Interesting. And is that how you got turned on to the organ?
No, but that's just I don't know why that came to my brain except that he was the one guy. But my first experience was my dad had a restaurant in Bowie, Maryland, which is between Baltimore, Annapolis, and Washington, D.C., a suburb, a Levittown. Actually, Levittown, Levitt, the developer, had Levittown, New York, Levittown, Pennsylvania, and then the third development that he built was Bel Air at Bowie. So it was a big suburb of, massive development on this giant horse farm. Anyway, my father started entertainment in his dining room. It was fine dining, and he had a guy who played originally an old Wurlitzer spackle, 54 key or however many keys were on the original Wurlitzer.
Yep.
He played dinner music.
Okay.
And then, shortly after he started, he brought in a B3 and a Leslie to the dining room, and it sat there. He played only on weekends, but it was there as a fixture in the dining room. And I was about 12 or so, and that was my first job, was on Sundays vacuuming the restaurant and the bar and cleaning the bathrooms. And if I got all my work done in time in the early afternoon, the restaurant didn't open until 4 p.m. So there was a cushion of a couple of hours where if I got all my work done, my dad would give me the key to the B3 with the permission of the organist guy.
Of course.
Who was relatively young. He was in his early 20s.
Wow.
But he was really good, playing just,
of course,
dinner music. But yeah, so I could sit on the organ. I learned how to turn it on, and I just messed around. All I could do was play Inagata Vita, and
yeah.
and I had no real concepts of anything like jazz yet. It came a couple years later, 2 or 3 years later, but just to feel the B3 and the sound, it stuck with me. And then I never played organ up until about maybe 2.5 years ago.
I remember that start.
Yeah. I mean, occasionally on a session I will do an overdub or something like that. Mm-hmm. But I was completely oriented to multiple keyboards, Fender Rhodes, synthesizers, all of that.
Yeah.
That was really my whole career. And it just sort of evolves over many years. Mm-hmm. And I found myself coming back to the challenge of organ and left-hand bass lines. I had never done left-hand bass lines. That's another just hilarious thing. If you would have seen me a couple of years ago when I first decided I got my first clone, and I thought, this is a good place to start. I'm going to take it slow. And I did have to take it very slow because, I was so used to just playing chord voicings in my left hand and always syncopated and multiple keyboards. I never held down the downbeats, or I never had to hold anything down with my left hand.
Yeah.
I was playing with great rhythm sections.
Of course.
So that challenge, I look back and I can laugh now, but it was just lame.
Well, I remember how excited you were because I was in Jakarta and you and I were having breakfast and I saw you and we shook hands and we started talking all about the organ, and it was like we really, really became friends like within an hour, I remember that so vividly, and you were so excited about it. And look at you now. I mean, I know now you're playing the organ really great because I've seen some of your videos out there in broadcast, man. Just beautiful, man.
Yeah, well, it just goes to show that, having my whole thing was diversity and I guess being very versatile.
Yeah.
And that served me super well in my career. But now that I'm a little bit older, and I'm going to be 65 in May, and I just think taking on challenges and stretching out of my comfort zone, that's the fun part. And I don't claim to be an expert at anything, that's for sure. Very, very humble about, everything. My solo piano playing, which is another new thing, and organ. But, it's when it's fun, it's fun. And the coolest thing was, we've been locked in.
Yeah.
And the last gig that I played, the last 2 gigs were actually organ gigs that I played, quartet. And I got a call a few weeks ago. It was from Joel Taylor.
Oh, wow.
Fantastic drummer.
Yeah.
We've played together for super.
I love Joel, man.
Yeah. I mean, Joel does everything from big band to Al Di Meola's fusion to contemporary jazz, anything, just straight ahead jazz. Brazilian, he's incredible on Brazilian. So he called, he says, hey man, I know things are sort of starting to open up. I mean, let me know if you're going to do some more organ gigs. That was so much fun. I'm there. So that's cool.
Wow. So there you go. And see, now being able to play your own left-hand bass, you can see how the economy of scale works out for organ players because, you don't have to hire the bass player, And,
yes, well,
you don't have to rehearse them either.
Yes, and I love the Jack McDuff quote, which I heard in person because that was the other thing. Just in between all of the jazz fusion that I was doing in this late 70s and from then on, the sax player that I was playing with, Tim Ironman, who was from Pittsburgh originally, and he came up right at the same era as Eric Kloss, who I'm sure you know.
Oh, yeah.
And Pat, because Eric had played with Pat Martino. And so there was this association between the Philly guys and the Pittsburgh guys. And so anyway, Tim would get called when Jack McDuff would come through D.C.
Mm-hmm.
His thing was a small horn section. And so I think he had one guy, but he picked up a couple of extra guys. And it was just him and Joe Dukes.
Yeah.
The two-cylinder rhythm section, as he called it. So
that's all you need.
I love that metaphor.
Yes. Two-cylinder rhythm section. And, when you look at organ trios in general, sometimes, you can call it a trio because there's always a great guitar player in the mix, too. But, you look at Don Patterson and Billy James. You look at Jimmy Smith, Grady Tate, or take it even back, Donald Bailey, right? How about Elvin Jones and Larry Young? And Joe Dukes and Jack McDuff. It's very interesting because that's the whole rhythm section. The bass, the comp, and the drums, So, wow. Two-cylinder.
Yeah, so I feel very lucky to have heard McDuff with Joe Dukes.
Wow.
A few nights, because I think it was a 4-night stand, and I went a couple of nights just to check it out.
Yeah.
And that was the same era that Benson had just recorded Breezin', and his band was Ronnie on Fender Rhodes. I don't think he had an organ. He might have had an organ, but they were just sort of transitioning out of that.
Yeah.
And George had just started singing 1 or 2 songs, but it was mostly jazz.
Unbelievable.
And that was the first time I met Ronnie. As I was I think I was 18 or 19.
What a great musician
and
Ronnie
we've
is.
remained good friends since. So that's really cool.
So for those who don't know, he's talking about the great Ronnie Foster, great organ player, piano player. And as a matter of fact, just to interject, when I first met Jimmy Smith, he told me, he says, "There's a guy coming up, man. His name's Ron Foster." He told me all about Ronnie Foster. So Ronnie was a student of Jimmy's. So there we go. Isn't that funny, the lineage here? Amazing. Wow.
Yeah, so just to have you guys keeping the tradition and just all the other great organ players that I've met, and also the younger generation of guys who have really concentrated on the B3. It's just wonderful. And, Will Blades, of course, Larry Golding's incredible, another one of my heroes. And Frank.
Carrie's right in your city.
Yes, and I would go. Joel Taylor actually had a little Friday night dive bar gig. Every Friday, different players would come in, and Carrie did it a few times. And Brian Charette did it. And Bobby Pierce did it, too, once.
Oh, man, Bobby was a teacher of mine way back then. He's got a release on Blue Note Records, man.
I looked him up. I saw all that stuff, and so it was pretty cool.
He's from Columbus,
Yeah, and I guess he's living in L.A. now and doing some teaching.
Yeah.
And, that was very interesting. But also in New York, Ben Patterson.
Oh, I love Ben's playing.
Man. I mean, Ben he actually won, I think, an Oscar Peterson competition on piano. So
multi-talented.
Yeah, he sings, plays great piano, and then when he gets on the organ, he's just got such a nice touch.
That sure does. Wow, interesting. So we were talking a little bit before the show about surviving through this pandemic, and It seems like you're doing okay. I'm just so honored and glad that you are. Tell us a little bit about that.
Yeah, well, I mean, it's tough for a lot of people, and I fortunately, because I have 13 solo CDs out there now, and you just never know where your music's going to be played, whether it's back over the decades, even Muzak in hardware stores.
No kidding.
And grocery stores. But now with the internet, finally musicians are getting paid. It's not a lot of money, but it does add up, thankfully.
Starts to come in.
So I feel very fortunate to have a lot of songs out there. And I also own most of my records. I've been on a few labels. A lot of my masters I've either bought back, or they were license deals that I did, and then they kind of reverted back to me. So
I see.
I own all but 3 of my masters, and so that helps as well. Because even foreign countries too, you just never know. It's pennies, but it does add up over the years.
Yeah. Wow. Beautiful.
So that's one of those things about younger people getting out there. First of all, if you write your own material, you're already ahead of the game and on your way to developing your own voice. And then even if you don't write your own material, but you have a really good presentation and a unique sound, and let's say you just want to do a tribute, let's just say you're a great singer and you want to do a tribute to Sarah Vaughan, and you do a jazz album and you put it out there, and if it gets played a lot, you will actually get featured artist sound exchange royalties. It doesn't matter whether you wrote the songs, but if you're the featured artist, and then a whole nother royalty, the equal another 50%, if you own the master, and in other words, you paid for it, and it wasn't a label. So those are the pieces of advice that I would give to people, is that if you get something out there and you have a unique sound, a unique presentation, and you can just get it out there and get popular, you never know what YouTube thing is going to go viral. You could be surprised and sign up for Sound Exchange.
Yes,
which is easy and free.
Yeah, very cool. So, man, this is going to be one of the first times on my Wednesday guests, because usually they're interviews, that someone can actually play. And the way you've got it set up is phenomenal. Can you play some?
I can play something. I don't. Let's see. I'm
going to flip the camera over to you full view when you get ready.
Cool. Well, let me just talk briefly about. Oh, actually, we can do that later. I'll play one with track.
Okay.
This is a Brazilian kind of vibe.
Okay, this is great, Greg. You're on the big silver screen, brother.
Cool. And this is a track from my CD that came out a few years ago. It's been out now for 4.5, 5 years, but it was up until very recently. It was my latest contemporary CD, all original music. And this is a Brazilian kind of vibe, and this is called Rio Drive.
Holy smoke. Man, that sounds beautiful, Greg. Wow.
Thank you.
Man,
I was
you
having
got
a hard
that
time hearing the rhythm.
Oh.
But I was struggling to stay.
We were hearing it over here. Isn't that funny? How the monitoring can on this side, man. It just and the width of that piano. What do you got on that? What are you miking that piano with, man?
Well, I've got a couple of Audio-Technica 4047 mics, which is my favorite mic that I've used over the years, and a couple of Neumann KM184s that I also have. And I'm just messing around with, getting the right balance and the right sound with them. But I'm glad it sounds good.
It sounded right to me, man. It had the depth, but it also had a lot of width and breadth. So it was really, really, really great, man. I'm just floating inside. That was beautiful. What was, tell me what inspired you to write that song?
That's one of those songs that I sat down. I knew I wanted to do a song that I would kick off. It's like normally you wait for the drummer to count off a song or something like that, or I would count it off. But this one, when we do it live, it's like... And it's like instantly people can tell where you're going. And that was just, that was the way that one started. It just came pretty quickly from there.
Sounded awesome, man. I love that. I want to hear more music. What else you got queued up? You got any?
Well, the latest thing I have is a new CD, which is all solo piano. So this is another...
Is that on your website? Is that the Serenata?
Yes, Serenata.
Okay, Serenata. Excuse me. I was sounding sophisticated. I got that your website. Everybody has a link to it in the feed.
Cool.
And they also are now looking at your website in the broadcast. So there we go. I'll come back to you now, okay? All right. So I'm back to you. You got that in your hand too, don't you? They can buy that CD right off your website, ladies and gentlemen. And once again, I'm going to go ahead. And while we're talking here, I'm just going to go ahead and send another link so you can go right there now and get a copy, because remember, you help support the arts when you do that, and we appreciate that, right, Greg?
Yes, of course.
Yeah, man.
And that's the coolest thing. It's available everywhere, but you can get autographed copies from my website.
And so that's the way to go, ladies and gentlemen, because that takes the distributor out of the picture and puts the money all in the artist's hands. Go to Greg's website, caracas.com. Okay, Greg, got that.
Yeah, so getting back to that song that I just played, Rio Drive, you can hear the vocals doing the hook in the background. That was an afterthought that my best buddy, my co-writing partner on many songs, Ron Bosted, he said, yeah, it sounds like a Sergio Mendes vibe. Mm-hmm. And I go, yeah, you're right, come to think of it. So I immediately said, okay, well, why don't you come in and do some vocals? So Shelby Flint, another fantastic singer-songwriter who I've worked with for many, many years, and Ron came in and did the vocals. And it kind of takes me back to my days. It brings it all full circle, because back in the late 80s and early 90s, there was a period when I was working with a lot of Brazilian artists. And I toured with Sergio Mendes and Ricardo Silveira. First person to meet was Ricardo Silveira, a guitarist who had toured with Milton Nascimento for many years and continues to play with everybody, especially João Bosco. And he's kind of like the Larry Carlton of Brazil. Mm-hmm. And he went to Berkeley, and so he happened to be at Berkeley at the same time as one of my good buddies, my bass player friend. So that's how I met Ricardo, and he immediately said, yeah, I got a record coming out on Verve, and we're going to do some gigs. So I found myself playing a bunch of tour dates with Ricardo and his two Brazilian friends, who are just the top guys from Brazil. Nico Assumpção, the bass player, who's since passed away, but he was the Jaco of Brazil.
Okay.
The Jaco Pastorius of Brazil.
Wow.
Without being influenced by Jaco, he was that heavy. And he was a very early member of Milton Nascimento's band and just had played with everybody. And if any jazz musicians would come down from America to play in Brazil, Nico was the guy, even on upright or electric, you name it. And then the drummer was Carlos Bala Gomes, who was kind of like the Steve Gadd of Brazil. So that was just a fantastic experience. And then through playing with those guys, I met Dori Caymmi, who's most people know his song, his most famous song is Like a Lover, which is also O Cantador in Portuguese.
Okay.
And it's become a jazz standard. And actually, Dori produced and arranged Sarah Vaughan's record, My Brazilian Heart, I think it was called. And she did Like a Lover and a number of his other songs on that, going back many years. So through playing with Dori, we used to play a lot at this tiny club. And then we also played Montreux Jazz Festival. Just fantastic experiences playing and recording with Dori. And so it was this spring while we were on lockdown that I found an old box of live cassettes from gigs, because I was the guy in the band who usually set up a couple of mics and recorded the gigs just for posterity. Sometimes I listened to them that night. Sometimes I never listened to them. But I found this cassette that said Dori at Le Café with a star on it. And I said, well, I got to check this out. So first of all, my cassette deck didn't work. So I had to find a used cassette deck somewhere. So I found one on Craigslist and played this cassette. And it was just a fantastic night, a fantastic performance. It was just a tiny club. It only held 60 people, but it was always packed. And my thing back then with Dori was I was sort of like all of the orchestrations, a lot of strings and woodwind parts and all of this. And the band was half Brazilian guys. It was Claudio Sloan on drums. And Claudio, organ players know Walter Wanderley, right?
Yeah, of course we do.
Summer Samba, so nice.
Okay.
Well, Claudio was the drummer on that
Oh,
record.
no kidding. Oh,
The
that's
original
great.
recording back in the 60s. And then Claudio came to the States with Wanderley. And he just has some great stories about how they came to Los Angeles and they were supposed to do a couple of promo gigs. And by the time they had gotten settled in their hotel, they found out the record was already in its second printing. It was a single, and it was just getting massive airplay.
Wow. It was
So
hitting.
it just blew up, you know.
Yeah. What a song, man.
You know, it's kind of a silly song to me for many years.
Yeah.
You know how Bossa Nova, Antonio Carlos Jobim, got relegated to like elevator music connotation for a while.
Yeah.
It was so popular that then it became, I don't want to say unpopular, but it became like an old hat. And of course now it's come full circle, and there's cults of Jobim in Japan. There's people that only sing Brazilian bossa nova.
It's amazing, isn't it?
But anyway, to get back to the point,
Okay.
sorry.
Oh, I love it.
So I listened to this cassette, and the gig was so great. The sound was great. My keyboards were in stereo. I had one speaker on each side of the stage, so the strings, the mics picked up the stereo of that and everything. And Dori was in rare form. And I just got very emotional listening to this tape, because also Dori had, when I was playing and touring with Dori was the same time that I had just gotten serious with my wife, my late wife, we weren't married yet, but we got engaged while I was playing with Doree down in San Diego. Mm-hmm. And then when we got married, another year later, Doree sang at our wedding ceremony. And we had a Brazilian band, of course, too, for the party version. But anyway, so it was just all part of, that great period of my life. So I sat down at the piano right away and said, let me remember some of these songs, because it had been since, I guess, the mid 90s was the last time we played together. And we'd stayed in touch over the years, and I'd seen him play occasionally, but he's back down in Brazil now. So I just sat down and I gradually figured out a couple of these songs on piano, which I had never really played the whole version, solo piano. And solo piano for me was another animal that I had not really tamed or really spent that much time doing over my career. So I just took up this challenge and kind of that night decided, you know what? I'm going to play some of these solo, and if I have enough songs that I like, maybe I'll record them. And it just kept going. And that became Serenata, which is half songs by Milton Nascimento, Doree Caymmi, and their contemporaries. Mm-hmm. And there's a couple of classic Brazilian records called Club da Esquina, Corner Club. And they were all-star projects, and it was kind of like if Crosby, Stills, and Nash and Young got together with James Taylor and Billy Joel back in the 70s and they all wrote some songs together, and they contributed some songs, and they all recorded and played on each other's stuff. That's what these records are like.
Yes.
And all these people who were very young songwriters at that time went on to have their own solo careers, and they've reunited a couple times over the decades. But these two classic albums, Club da Esquina 1 and Club da Esquina 2, are just classics. So I did a couple from those records. And then a couple of 5 or 6 of my own songs, a couple of which are just late night improvisations that I just sat down and, just kind of went for it. And they came out as songs. And I just don't know how that happens, but that's a great mystery.
It's a miracle, right? Yeah.
So, and the cool thing is, recently, now that I've gotten set up and everything, I got some lights and a couple of cameras, I'm doing videos of a lot of the songs to put up on YouTube. And I just put up a brand new one just yesterday of Doree's song, which is a song that I dedicated to Doree Caymmi.
Okay.
And I might as well do that one for you now.
Oh, that'd be great, Greg.
All right, here we go. I'm going to
Appreciate
turn off this mic.
Okay. I'm going to flip the camera. Ladies and gentlemen, the great Greg Karukas. Wow, Greg. Just gorgeous. That's like a film soundscape, man. It's just gorgeous. I could feel so many emotions.
Thank you. And that's sort of like the vibe of the record. There's a couple of things that are a little more rhythmic, but it's just very romantic sounding.
Yeah.
And that's the side of Dori Kaimi where it doesn't fall. It's not a cliche samba all the time. It's some very rich harmonic stuff and just romantic melodies. And that just, for me, that's kind of the lyrical aspect of that is where I'm at now.
Yeah, beautiful. I'm posting a way for people to come to your website to buy that. And as you said, you'll autograph that for them if they purchase it from you direct. And I'm doing that. Greg, I can't thank you enough for being my guest today. I'm feeling emotional. When I get emotional, it's because there's a lot of love between us. Thank you very much for sharing your heart to the world. And you won't believe the comments that people have, and I hope that many people come to visit you and get their autographed copy of this.
Yeah, thanks, Tony. Love what you do. I'm always tuning in and watching and learning.
Oh, me too. I'm listening to you too, man. God bless you, man. I'm tearing. I don't know why. That last song, I could feel it in my core. So I know that there was a lot of passion. God bless you. I hope to see you soon out on the road so we can have breakfast together in some crazy place.
Yeah, but it's great to check in on the Zoom every now and then. It's a fantastic thing. So we'll be doing it more, and I'll be doing a few more of these myself. Little Facebook Lives here and there.
Okay.
And I'll have more videos to put out in the coming weeks.
If you get a minute, why don't you post a link to your Facebook page while I'm playing, so that way the friends know how to come to find you too. Okay.
Yes, I'll have to go to my other computer.
Wait a minute, I'm going to do it right now. Heck with that. Hang on. I'm going to do it. You don't have to do anything. You're my guest. Hang on, I'm going to do it right now. Shoot, that's beautiful. All right, here we go. I know I have you right here, so there we go. Facebook, Greg.Karukas, right? That's it. Okay, everybody, here comes Greg's Facebook page. Please go ahead and hit like, and so you could keep in touch with his live broadcasts and streams, and stay in touch with him as he does his work with us like we're all doing in keeping the music going. God bless you, Greg. Thank you very much, and I'll catch you on the flip-flop sometime real soon, okay?
All right, take care.
God bless you. Thank you, Greg. We'll see you, sir. Wow. What a gentleman, huh? That's just a great, great, great man right there. We instantly became friends, and you can see why. God, I don't know why I got so emotional. I want to thank all of you. There's some of you who have been kind to me today. Thank you, Paul Vineyard. God bless you. I'd like to thank all these people. Matthew, thank you very much. We'll see you at the lesson pretty soon, right, brother? Debbie Hill and Gordon from Canada. Hey, man, thank you. And thank you for purchasing the CD. Guess what? I have the other one coming to you, too. The one from Richie Cole. So that was going to be my surprise. But since you're here, I wanted to tell you because I know you support me so much and you to be ordering it. So don't. I got a gift for you. Okay? All right. And Peter, man, thank you very much. God bless you, man. That makes me very, very happy on this week leading up to Easter Sunday. Many of you know that I'm a very emotional person because music has saved my life, and so has God. So here's my website, b3monaco.com. I just released 2 CDs They were actually, one is just being released. One is another one that I just received copies of because this great man, Reed Hoyson, produced these. And so if you go to b3monaco.com and you want to get autographed CDs from me, I got 2 new ones. One called Strollin' with my great friend Hendrik Merkins. I got to ask him to be a guest. And the late, great Richie Cole. And, of course, there's many more things on my website. If you're interested in taking lessons, I have an introductory deal for just $30. You could spend an hour with me in person. Also, I have a school. Yes, it's tonymonaco.vhx.tv. You could take a free 3-day trial. So do that, and you'll witness over 200 and some hours of great instruction with my classes and my instructional catalog. Also, I just recently introduced a play-along series. This is something I'm very excited about. For just $5, you can get several mixes from each Friday show, since I'm now recording them in multi-track. So there's a few things you can do. And one last thing, if you scroll down, of course, you can buy DVDs. Whoa, they still make those? Yes, they do. But you can also get the same exact content and get instant gratification by getting your download copies. And, of course, just keep scrolling down. There's all kinds of surprises. So welcome, ladies and gentlemen. Thank you again, Greg Karukas, for your wonderful interview. And thank you. All right, well, I think since he was mentioning the Brazilian music and Walter Wanderley, there's a beautiful recording of this next song that I'm going to play. And I think I'll take out the show with this. I think we'll enjoy it. It'll be so apropos, as they say. See, I just sounded sophisticated. Apropos. Hold on. I'm not going to tell you what the song is, okay? You feel the groove, though. Here it is. All right, ladies and gentlemen, thanks again. On Friday, my normal Friday 4 p.m. show will not be aired because I'll be playing live at the Woodlands Club at 8 o'clock p.m., which will be there for you all. And I'm trying to fix my pedals. Yeah. God bless you all. Thanks for joining me. You're welcome. And I love you too, man. God bless you all. Call me up, baby, and I'll make you happy. God bless you all. We'll see you Friday evening at 8 p.m. Eastern, live at Woodlands with Reggie Jackson on the drums and Joshua Hill on the guitar. In the meantime, thank you all for your kind generosity and hope you all have a pleasant evening. Thank you, Greg. It was wonderful to see you again and smiling like that. God bless you all. Be safe. Thank you. We'll see you soon.